President Reagan once said, "There's a woman in Chicago. She has 80 names, 30 addresses, 12 social security cards. She's getting Medicaid, getting food stamps, and she's collecting welfare under each of her names. Her tax-free cash income alone is over $150,000. This image of the welfare queen has become such a legendary character in politics that most compare her to Bigfoot. Many scholars say that they never existed, but few believe the truth is out there."
So this informative speech is about welfare. I think it's a very hot topic, especially in today's time in politics. There's a lot of positive and negative things to welfare. Some of the positives, just for main purposes, would be helping aid families in need, whether you're sick, disabled, or unemployed. Another positive would be helping economic growth, and also with new standards and laws that have been passed, it helps alter whether you're dishonest and abusing the system, or if you really need it to help wean out those that are abusing the system. Some of the negative aspects, and one that is, very popular into people's eyes when discussing welfare, would be creating a dependency on government. And another negative aspect or con to welfare would be high cost of it, helping contribute to the U.S. bankruptcy. And lastly, hand in hand, having dishonest people who do abuse the system. A little bit of background is that welfare started in the 1930s during the Great Depression. It was to help those in need at that time. And the way that it works is the federal government supplies each state with a lump sum of money. And the way that this lump sum number is determined is by the level of contribution of each individual state. So that's a little bit of history and background on it. Okay, as you can see on this slideshow, I kind of listed bullet point the pros to welfare, and just to go in detail a little bit over each one. The first one is that the programs are funded by contribution, and these programs consist of Medicare and Social Security and many others. And what this means is, in our paychecks, money comes out going towards these programs. So recipients are receiving what they put in pretty much. So it's a good way of funding for programs. It also creates a safety net, which is a positive thing for those that legitimately do become sick, disabled, or unemployed. Then welfare is a way to help aid these families to get them back up on their feet. As long as that's their intention, then yes, this is a positive thing. Another thing would be economic growth. That's a pro to welfare because people take risk, and that is one thing that helps escalate economic growth. Another pro to welfare would be the improvement on government standards and laws. The recent passing in Florida with drug testing to receive welfare is definitely a pro because it helps get rid of those that are abusing the system. If you don't pass the drug test, which they can do at any time while receiving benefits, you'll lose it for up to 3 years. You have to have a job within 6 months, so they're cracking down on making sure that welfare is helping aid those that do need it. And also the high security and identity checks when picking up your welfare benefits. Another, and that goes hand in hand with the pro of it is there for helping aid families in need, and tax revenue. That's also a pro. Some of the cons to welfare would be the main one that many people think of when they think of welfare, and that would be the culture dependency on the government. This is where people lose incentive to work because they're receiving benefits, and most of the time it pays more than having a minimum wage job. This also leads to out-of-wedlock births and also the incentive to not have a job. this is negative to welfare because it leads to dishonest people abusing the system. Another con to welfare would be the cost and it leading U.S. Into bankruptcy even further. Now, while this isn't a main factor in bankruptcy, it does help contribute to it. Another con would be that taxpayers suffer. We're paying for those people to abuse the system who sit there every day and just collect benefits. Another con, and this is something that I found pretty interesting in my research, would be when benefits become quotation rights. And with that case, policymakers lose flexibility and control when people think that their benefit is now their right. It should be a privilege, and I'm sure we've all heard quotes about that before. Another con to welfare is that images like this create a bad light on welfare and public assistance, such as the welfare queen, for example, that was stated at the beginning of the presentation. And, I mean, the biggest negative con to welfare of all is that there are dishonest people abusing the system. But how I see it, no matter what system, what law, anything it is, there will always be somebody out there that finds a way to tweak the system and to take advantage of it. Welfare was a very interesting subject to research and try and inform others about to learn a little bit more. There's just so much detail that goes into this that we wouldn't have the time of day to sit here and really get a full understanding of it. But it is something that I do want to research further than just this project. My takeaway from this would definitely be don't assume the worst. Now, while a lot of welfare queens do exist, there are really people that are receiving benefits from this program that are deserving of it and need it. So there's good and bad with everything, pros and cons with everything. Like stated before, some of the pros would be economic growth, safety nets, and helping those that are in need. Some of the cons would be people abusing the system, high costs, also policymakers losing flexibility and control over issues, and there's so much more to this than what we know, and I think it's a subject a lot of us don't know a lot about, but think we have a lot of opinions about. So that's kind of my takeaway and my summary of things, and I hope that I could teach you guys a little something that maybe you didn't know, or help open insight to something you would want to learn more about. I look forward to watching all of your videos and something that interests you, and thank you for watching.
An anonymous source once said, "It's good to have a safety net, but it shouldn't be a lifestyle."